Alrighty, let's see here.
On CNN. Actually, the biggest search terms being associated with Donald Trump's name now have to do with they're eating their dogs, eating the cats, eating the pets, Haitian situation, which we're about to talk about with Zed Jelani, but let's take a listen to Enton's analysis there.
Yeah, what are the rising things that people are Googling along with Donald Trump's name? It's not what Donald Trump's campaign would necessarily want, right? It's eating pets. It's eating dogs. It's eating cats. Obviously, that was Donald Trump's moment on the debate stage. Of course, that's a Fugazi story. It's not real. It's fake. Yet he went after it. This is a disaster. Who the heck, if you're running a presidential campaign, that you'd want your name being Googled with eating pets, eating dogs, eating cats? My goodness gracious.
Well, I mean, maybe he thinks it's a win.
Well, he's wrong.
So they do think it's a win. Trump, at least, thinks it's a win.
He thinks it's a win. So does JD. I'll save all my comments. I'm going to save all my comments.
Say something now, because we'll get Zed in the next one. So go ahead and just give us your top line thoughts on this.
I think that they are making the same mistake that they all made during Stop the Steal, which is they believe that anything that directionally points or causes argument around the issue that they think they are going to win on, like immigration, they believe that anything is justified.
They admit that it's all a lie. They admit that they're lying. JD Vance has gone on multiple interviews now, and they've called him out for the fact that it's a lie. And he's like, well, yeah, we're trying to make sure that people are talking about this issue. And if I have to make up a story so that people are talking about real issues, then I'll do that. And then they say, so you're admitting that it's a false story, that you made this up, that this is fake news. I'm not going to get down into the weeds as to what is fake news and what isn't fake news. Okay, Dana? Like, bro. Unbelievable. What did Elon say? What did he say this time? Okay, this better be quick.
The Democrat open borders plan to entrench single-party rule, explained in under 2 minutes. 1. Flood the country with untold millions of illegals by land, sea, and air from all over the world. Enough to eclipse the populations of 36 individual U.S. states so far. 2. Prioritize the needs of these millions of non-citizens over the needs of the American citizen, with free flights, buses, hotels, meals, and phones.
Elon tweeting this. Can you imagine? Can you imagine again? They say that the other liberal tech CEOs are doing this. The only one that's putting out explicit partisan propaganda is Elon Musk. He's the only one doing this. You cannot be a conservative and pretend that any of the other ones are doing it when Elon is the only one. He is the only one doing this. Didn't Taft do this? I'm not going to lie, fam. I know all about Taft.
In talking about, in backing up, in
oh, wait, hold on. We'll scoot that back a little bit.
Ensuring their loyalty to the political party that imported them. 3, keep them in the country at all.
No, there's no reason for them to be loyal to the Democrats. Again, most of the people that are coming in from below the border, from the south of the border, they're going to be like socially conservative. It's a bunch of Catholics. A bunch of Catholics coming down from their countries into the United States. A bunch of conservatives. And you don't think that you can capture those people? 1 second.
All costs, even when they commit violent crime like murder and attack the language used to describe the criminals, as opposed to the criminals themselves.
Not all of them are criminals. And when you say racist shit, people are going to call you a racist. Imagine that. When you say Haitians are eating cats and dogs, people are going to call you racist. Go figure.
Gender critics as racist. 4. Ensure their privileges are made irrevocable with city and state sanctuary laws that act as population magnets.
The federal government doesn't have control over city and state sanctuary laws. And what was the thing that he said just before that? Ensure their privileges are made irrevocable. Their privileges aren't irrevocable. There's specific. What was the type of Haitian? is it TPS? Temporary protected status. The key word there being temporary protected status. Temporary. No one has been given total protected status. It doesn't stand for total. It doesn't stand for temporally, locked in place forever. Temporary, meaning for a short amount of time. That's what that means. That's what words mean.
Are made irrevocable with city and state sanctuary laws that act as population magnets, codify permanent status, and ensure non-cooperation with ICE. 5. Count the non-citizens in the census that will determine...
That has always been the case. It has always been the case. Why do we count non-citizens in the census? Whether they are illegal immigrants or whether they are, temporary workers here from India or whatever why do we count those people? We count population, so we know how many people should be in Congress from that state. We count population so that we know how much federal funding that states should get because of the wear and tear on infrastructure. And the more people that there are in a specific area, the more wear and tear there's going to be on that infrastructure. It's a good thing that we count non-citizens in the census. It would kill places like Texas or California or maybe Florida. I don't know which states have the highest levels of undocumented citizens, but it's just something that is a good thing to do. He's a poor man's Bastiat. Who are you talking about? Are you talking about me? You know what? I'll take that if you're saying that about me. Let's finish this out.
Congressional apportionment in the House of Representatives. As of now.
Yeah, that would predominantly help conservative states. Like 3,000 population states that have no one in them that they're going to for work opportunities, even if they're undocumented citizens, even if they're I'm not saying that undocumented, wrong chat, shame. Well, say something nice about me now, Savicio. Okay, say something nice about me. But yeah, Texas, California, Arizona, New Mexico, I guess places like Ohio would benefit from this, and that's an overwhelmingly conservative state. Why would you? You're also cucking your own side if you're a conservative, if you don't want to count undocumented citizens in the census.
That would equal 13.
Oh, here's a map. Interesting. Texas, New Mexico, California. Look at all of these states that would be helped by counting undocumented citizens in the census. They get more federal funding for their infrastructure. They get more people for their population count. It just helps.
Extra congressional districts. A tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive...
And again, Texas is probably going to be one of the biggest recipients of that. 600,000 undocumented in New York. I guess I could see it, but just the idea that I don't know if that would proportionally change how many seats that they get, just because there's also an increase over here. But Texas, 1.6 million, California, that's a Democrat, I guess. But if we're looking at all these other states, Arizona is a swing state that tends to vote conservative. Georgia is a conservative state. Florida is a conservative state. North Carolina has been voting conservative since 2008, I think. This helps conservatives more than it helps liberals.
Heavily funded lawfare campaign to change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots. No signature verification.
Sorry, I was reading chat.
Extra congressional districts. A tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive, heavily funded lawfare campaign to change...
Well, hold on. See, again, the reason why is actually a good one. The more people that you have using your infrastructure, the more federal funding that you're going to need to repair that infrastructure, to upkeep it, right? So if you have an extra 1.6 million people in Texas that are undocumented, you probably still want to be able to count those people so that the federal government can fund accurately how, to upkeep the infrastructure and the things that are having wear and tear, like roads and stuff like that. Those are going to get wear and tear on them associated with more people driving on them, right? It like that kind of funding helps out with building new houses and stuff like that. Or hear me out, they apply to be U.S. citizens and get the out. Wait, hold on. They apply to be U.S. citizens and then after they apply to be U.S. citizens, then we kick them out? No. I mean, like, it's just like one of those things where like it might feel bad at a surface level, but like the more you think about it, the more you look into like the specific reasons why you count. And this isn't just like, this is all non-citizens, right? They count all non-citizens, whether they're undocumented or if they are here on a green card or if they're here on a work visa or anything. Like if you have a bunch of Indians here from India on H-2B visas, right? Going into Washington, Oregon, and California, like those people should be counted because they're here, Your problem is caused by another problem. You fix the core issue, then you fix all the other issues. Well, nobody's willing to, we've been over this a million times, just me and you. Like nobody is willing to actually solve the issue at the border, because the issue at the border is the asylum seeking process, right? Like how to claim asylum. And the Republicans aren't offering a solution for that. They're just saying we need to build a wall and we need to deport everyone. But they don't want to fix the actual policy that is like the biggest driver of people to come here, So like everybody sucks on that. Yes, they are, Tron.
Change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots. No signature verification. Legalize a tremendous amount of electoral power. 6. Wage a massive, heavily funded lawfare campaign to change state voting laws that legalize mass mail-in ballots. No signature
There's nothing wrong with that.
verification. And
yes, there is signature verification, and you have to be a citizen of the United States to vote in a federal election. You're not going to be able to vote if your name is on that ballot when it's sent to you.
No proof of citizenship requirements, making it nearly impossible to prove voter fraud.
That's not true.
7. Lock in the permanent voting majority with campaign promises of lavish benefits and permanent privileges, enshrining generational fear.
This is just the great replacement theory. He realizes that he's posting the great replacement theory, right? This is like the soft version of the great replacement theory.
Loyalty to the Democrat Party. 8. Win elections. 9. Entrenched single-party rule has been achieved.
Except we're in the most divided 50-50 Senate, near 50-50 House that the country has ever seen in like the past 150 years.
The best part? Your tax dollars are paying for it.
Western Lens Man. I'm going to look that guy up. I wonder if it's a Nazi account. Oh, wait, hold on. I can just click on his profile there. A little bit scared to just show it on stream here because I don't know what this guy posts. But let me take a cursory look here. It's all just like Democrats are evil. I don't see anything that's explicitly like Nazi. Seems like it's just a very angry boy.
My goodness gracious.
Well, I mean, maybe he thinks it's a win.
Well, he's
Who
wrong.
knows?
So they do think it's a win. Trump at least thinks it's a win.
He thinks it's a win. So does JD. I'll save all
Go
my
ahead.
comments. I'm going to save all my comments.
Say something now because we'll get Zed in the next one. So go ahead and just give us your top line thoughts on this.
I think that they are making the same mistake that they all made during Stop the Steal, which is they believe that anything that directionally points or causes argument around the issue that they think they are going to win on, like immigration, they believe that anything is justified in talking about, in backing up, in not surrendering on in order to focus the conversation. Now, as I had said to them at that time, I think they're fundamentally incorrect because I think lying to people is, I'm going to put morals out of it. Lying to people or saying things that are incorrect give you too much to be discredited on, where
Yeah.
people say, then I don't believe anything that you say. So for example, Stop the Steal. Everyone was like, look, it's not about bamboos and Mike Lindell and all of us. I'm like, well, Trump thinks it is, but they're like, it's about mail-in balloting laws in the state of Pennsylvania. I go, hey bro, but that's not what people are talking about.
Right.
You guys are saying that the election should not be certified because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made a ruling on mail-in ballots. That's not the same thing that you're talking about. So you want to talk about Haitians? Let's talk about it all day long, about TPS, the legitimacy of migrant law, asylum, etc. I think that's a winning issue for Republicans, and polls show that. But when you start claiming people are eating pets and dogs, and then when you get discredited on that, and then even worse, you start to take anecdotal evidence as fact in and of itself, the current defense is, my constituents say, listen, I'm going to give you news. Most people who are interested in politics are stupid and weird. Like, if you are at the local level, and by the way, I include myself in that. So if you are at the local level and you're calling your congressman, I've manned enough of these phones. If you have the time out of the middle of your day to call your congressman and complain, you're a freaking weirdo 98% of the time. So that we're just going to take these people's word? I mean, how many times do we see these bullshit election affidavits that were completely fake?
Yeah.
Fake. You know,
Yeah.
and Stop the Steal. Oh, I saw this, blah, blah, blah. Fake. Did an investigation. Fake. Oh, saw this. Judge literally looks at it, laughs, and throws it out of the courtroom. They see that as evidence of conspiracy, which is part of the issue. So, I mean, how many times do we see these bullshit election affidavits that were completely fake?
Yeah.
Fake. You know,
Yeah.
and Stop the Steal. Oh, I saw this, blah, blah, blah. Fake. Did an investigation. Fake. Oh, saw this. Judge
I can't
literally
believe
looks at
he's
it,
admitting
laughs,
it.
and throws it out of the courtroom. They see that as evidence of conspiracy, which is part of the issue. So, I mean, in general, they have this idea of directional truth. Now, look, in their defense.
Directional truth.
For real.
It's such a dystopian concept.
It is, but I'll give their defense on this, is that Trump tells small lies to tell bigger truths. Like, he tells small lies about Haitians to get us talking about X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I have to take myself out of it. In 2016, when shit like this was happening, when he did the Khazir Khan, Access Hollywood, The Judge, you know, all this stuff, I was like, there's no way this guy can win. And he still won. So maybe they are right, and maybe their theory is correct. I don't think there's enough recent evidence to show that it's right.
Yeah.
I think he looks stupid. I actually think that what it does is it validates this idea of, well, anything. It validates like Russiagate. Oh, because we have Oleg Deripaska and a dossier that Christopher Steele put together that says, you know, X, Y, and Z, we spent 2 years as a country litigating that. And Democrats, rightfully, where I think were eviscerated for believing that, you know, Donald Trump peed on somebody and there was a video of it. That's the same, you know, thing that
That shit would have been so funny if it was real. Damn, it's such a shame that that's not real, because it would be so funny if it was. Damn.
you're doing here. We're like, oh, well, I heard from my neighbor's daughter's friend on Facebook.
By the way, the Facebook lady is like,
And she just
she regrets putting it up there. She's like, and she heard it from like somebody it was like third-hand
Yes.
potential possibility.
My top line is just, listen, you know, I think people are smart, and I think they're actually a lot smarter than you give them credit for. And I think when you are telling lies and they see through that, they both don't trust you. And, you know, this whole jujitsu, there's this high IQ jujitsu that goes on. I called it high IQ Stop the Steal at the time. I don't think it works. I just don't. I think that poll after poll after poll says the chaos and all the stuff around Trump is actually what people feel exhausted by. That's part of the reason he lost the 2020 election. Stop the Steal was a huge hindrance to them in 2022. I see no evidence that it will work this time. Listen, they're the ones running, so maybe they are right. And if they win, I'll eat it. But I don't know. I mean, at the very least, like personally, I think it's ridiculous and stupid. But listen, there's maybe enough people who the pets thing gets them thinking about the migrant situation, and that's enough for them to vote Republican. Again, I don't see evidence recently that is correct. I think it's actually a really bad way to do politics. I also think, you know, for them too, you're betting everything on the line here, guys. Like, if you lose, you're done. Like, think about it. In terms of being taken seriously as a party apparatus.
I like how soccer's like main worry is just the optics. It's just the optics, dude. He only cares about how it makes people look, and not the fact that they're spreading very openly, very extremely racist things.
I know this Trump is exempt from this just because he's like bigger above that category. But for everybody else, JD included, you're a young man, dude. You know, you got to live your whole life in this town. If you lose, you're going to be one of those senators who's a lifer. You want to be like Josh Hawley, put his fist up and hasn't seen the light of day in 4 years? I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
And so it's like, why?
Yeah,
why would we do
he's
this?
all in now.
Well,
And there's no
now
going
you
back.
have no choice.
There's
over.
no going back.
It is genuinely over.
Yeah.
Like, you either win, you or put it everything. You either win or, in my opinion, like, sign up for the Hawley category. Like, enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a fun place to be.
Well, we were talking about this on Thursday after our show.
Yeah.
And I said, because we were looking at the like Polymarket odds on whether Trump was going to say cat
Yes.
at the
It was
rally.
like 32%. He didn't say it, by the way. He said pets.
But
Yeah.
I said he's going to talk about this
Yeah.
because he thinks this is good for him because he can't tell the difference between good and bad publicity. He thinks any attention on him is good. And it's been driving him crazy that he's not been the main character. So the public has developed some, and the media and the political class, everybody's developed some immunity to Trump's insanity over the years. So the things that send the media into a tizzy that worked in 2016, they don't work the same way in 2024, right? Like the, she turned black thing. Everyone was, for one day, like, what the hell? And then they moved on. And Kamala Harris very smartly was like, same old playbook, who cares? Let's move on, let's talk about you. So this is the first time he said something outrageous, disgusting, insane enough that it did send everybody into a tizzy. And so he likes being in that situation again where he gets to control the narrative. But yeah, it's not the same as 2016 because this is, yes, it feeds into a conversation about immigration, but I would argue it actually undercuts your position on immigration because you're not talking about this as an economic issue. You're not talking about this as a housing issue. You're talking about it in an incredibly, racist way. And so people look at this and go,
gonna get mad about that.
like, oh, that's what this is actually all
It's
about.
not racist.
So the framing on the issue is the polar opposite of what you would want. And number two, it validates the Democratic frame of like, these people are just weird. Like, they're just a bunch of weird freaks. And when they're Googling you with pets and dogs and cats and whatever, and you think it's great that people are making TikToks making fun of you, you don't even see that they're like mocking you to your face. You think this is wonderful for you. But the reality is that this actually just validates the Democratic framing, the way they have wanted, the lens they've wanted to apply to you. So being the main character in this instance, not always the thing that you ultimately want.
The reason I'm just not willing to is I'm a cynical person, and I think that there's a lot of people out there who may like it. I think that there are people who really enjoy the media getting upset, and liberals. I think that, look, there's a decent enough evidence on the immigration question as well that a lot of people who care about immigration don't care about economics at all. They're worried about demographic change.
Those people already voted for Trump.
Yes, but let's say it's not even about swaying. It's about getting those people out to vote. Maybe that's enough to get them off the couch or their relatives. The immigration situation has been crazy enough that, maybe it's enough that for them to forgive that or to think about this whole policy thing. Again, I don't see evidence for that, but I'm not going to discount that possibility. He has turned out people
I'm going to discount that possibility. The other thing here.
What was the possibility that he's talking about?
Question as well that a lot of people who care about immigration don't care about economics at all. They're worried about demographic change.
Those people already voted for Trump.
Yes, but let's say it's not even about swaying. It's about getting those people out to vote. Maybe that's enough to get them off the couch or their relatives. The immigration situation has been crazy enough that, maybe it's enough that for them to forgive that or to think about this whole policy thing. Again, I don't see evidence for that, but I'm not going to discount that possibility. He has turned out people
I'm going to discount that possibility. The other thing here.
He did win. Like in 2016, he won.
He won in 2016.
Put that out of my
he
mind.
lost, but he's been losing ever since. Lost in 2018, lost in 2020, lost in 2022. This guy does not have the touch in the sense that he used to.
I heard from a guy whose mama works with a housekeeper at Mar-a-Lago that Trump lets Laura Loomer fuck him in the... Jesus, please. Please don't put that image into my head. I don't need that image in my head. I don't need the image of them having missionary, loving, consensual sex in my mind because it's Laura Loomer and Donald Trump. And those are two people that I never want to imagine having sex with anybody, let alone together. Jesus.
And this will fit in with, the conversation we're about to have.
But it seems more and more likely the more people are like like posting pictures of them together and the way that they interact together, and they're like blowing kisses at each other and stuff. Like that's a very strange, at the very least, it's a very, 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 very strange relationship that they have. Okay. I don't want to imagine them at all. Okay. I would prefer to be lobotomized. Okay. That's where I'm at.
About Laura Loomer. Like,
what was I doing?
his posture in 2016 was tabloid.
Yeah.
It was sensationalist. It was New York Post, right? It was the tabloid, like, finger on the pulse in a raunchy, over-the-top, obnoxious way, but yeah, finger on the pulse. Then in 2020, he's like Fox News grandpa, which there still is a large appetite for in the country, right? Mainstream sort of conservative Fox News grandpa talking points. That's good enough to get him close. Now it's like Truth Social or like, you know, the weird echo chambers on Twitter, listening to Laura Loomer, taking advice from her as if she's a positive asset for your campaign. I just think he's completely lost the plot. And Dave Weigel tweeted this, which I think is really true. He's like, sometimes you're living rent-free in your opponent's head because you pissed your pants and they think it's really funny. Like, not all publicity is good publicity. And we already know from the polls we just covered, this did not go well for him. Like, it did not go well for him. The more people were familiar with the debate and things that he had to say in the debate, like the pets thing, the less inclined they are to support Donald Trump. So in a sense, like, the verdict is already in with the polling and what has come out of that. She's narrowed the gap on the economy. She's even narrowed the gap on immigration and who people think would be better on that issue. She was seen as, she's improved in favorability. Donald Trump has fallen in favorability post-debate. The polling has been almost uniformly better for her. So, like, I sort of feel like the jury is already in with the data that we already have. And you could say these polls are all off.
That's my point.
But we're
My
looking at
point.
polls, we're looking at the trend line, right? And so even if you say a given poll is off in their methodology, if the trend line moved in her direction, that still is representative or reflective of a real change that actually happened, given that they're using the same methodology
But
each
if
time.
he wins, what is he going to take away from this? What are him and JD going to take away from this? I mean, if you win the election, you know, and you pursue this, you get put back into the White House. I mean, I think that's, frankly, like, we all need to grapple with that then. We're like, okay, well, we're going to have some 2016 ever conversations again
course,
about,
yeah.
like, all right, clearly there's something going on here. You know, people are,
It could also be, though, in spite of this, not because of this, but
possible.
Yeah.
At the very least, when you win, all sins are forgiven. And so
Yeah, sure.
if you look at it and you think about it, if they win based on this, I would say it actually gives them the leeway to do whatever they want. They could say, listen, we said this, we got away with this. When we told our directional truths, they listened. So mass deportation on the table. Any family separation back on the table. We're not listening to the media criticism. We're not listening to any of this bullshit anymore. We're unhinged. And frankly, I don't think they would be wrong. You know, if they do win the election, even when they were conducting themselves this way and all that, I think it tells you something pretty clear about where things are going. You may not like that direction, but it's very possible. So I guess this is a test of political theories. My theory is that you should not lie to people. Do the directional truth. My theory is that constantly trying to validate, you know, this partisan bullshit, like, no offense, Christopher Rufo, but this whole thing about, like, oh, well, some African guys 45 miles away barbecued a cat in 2023. I'm like, yeah.
Also, the tweet that everyone's saying that people were barbecuing a cat, it was Bosnians. They weren't even I don't even think that they were immigrants. It was a Bosnian family, right? I don't know if they were immigrants or if that's just their heritage. And it was lamb. It was lamb. God.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking about here.
But that's not even potentially reality.
okay,
But
well,
anyway, you paid $5,000. Yeah,
Listen,
whatever.
Regardless of whether it's true or not, I'm just like, but that's not actually what he said. That's not what they said. They said X,
Right.
Y, and Z. Now, I mean, I think politicians should have to tell the truth. I think that when they say things based on quote unquote anecdotal evidence as, you know, as backing up allegedly, you know, I'll put it this way. Just because some of your constituents said that X, Y, and Z was true, you know, JD keeps saying it. My constituents keep saying this is true. My constituents keep
Also,
saying
he
this
hasn't
is true.
produced evidence of, but go on. Yeah,
but
even if that's the
I'm saying
case.
that's not a good enough standard to come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, your extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You have to be able to, and also as a politician, I mean, part of the reason that we don't live in a quote unquote direct democracy and we do live in a republic is this idea that the founding fathers had of mediation between the whims and the movement of the mob and considered people. That's specifically the entire job of the United States Senate, is to cool the temperature of the country, to provide due diligence and deliberation around where things are. Now, throughout our history, there has been deep vacillation between wanting the diligent, the professor, the Obama, and then the id, people like Donald Trump or many other populists, not even at the national level, at the state level too. So I could be, again, they could be right. Like, they really could be running some sort of Richard Nixon style 1968 silent majority. The media treated Nixon the same way. The problem I have is I read about Nixon. Nixon probably had like a 160 IQ. He might be one of the smartest people who has ever held the Oval Office. He was a lot more
Not smart enough to not get impeached and removed from office.
more disciplined. He was a lot more considered. Sure, his morals weren't always there necessarily, but I think he was a very smart man, a very calculating man, and in many cases, he was a very good president. So I don't see the same, the same link between them. But they have a theory, and the theory has worked. I mean, anybody who can win the Oval, that's something. That's something that I know, because in that moment I said, how could this man ever get elected? And he did. So, I mean, it shattered my political consciousness for all time.
Yeah.
So I can never just sit here and just be like, no, I don't think it's going to work. Because I really believe I could be totally wrong about the way that I view the public. And I've been proved wrong on the show so many different times.
The theory they have of Americans is deeply cynical.
Yeah, but they might be right.
Because I mean, think about what they've incited in this town, not just against the legal, by the way, Haitian residents of this town, but against the whole town. You have the mayor, you have the governor begging for them to stop, because now it's not just Haitians who go to those elementary schools that have been subject to bomb threats. It's not just Haitians that want to seek treatment at the hospital that's been subject to bomb threats. It's not just Haitians that are like under siege in this little Ohio town that J.D. Vance, by the way, represents as his constituents. It's this entire town. And so, yeah, their bet is that actually the core concerns that people have about immigration are not actually about housing, wages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The things that you talk about, Sagar, it's not actually about that. It's actually just like racist. We don't like these people because they're different and we want them out. And so we're gonna play into that. We're gonna lean into that. That's the bet that they're making. And I just don't believe that. I don't think most Americans want to see themselves as racist. I don't think they want to have their policy views or who they vote for president driven by just like explicit racist fear-mongering. And so it's it's too naked, right? It's too mask off. And this is what the conversation we had about the like Kamala Harris, she turned black thing too, where I was like, this is not gonna work because it's too naked a racial appeal.
Yes.
And most people, you got your people out there who are cool with that. Unfortunately, that is a reality that exists and has always existed in America and probably always will exist. The overwhelming majority of Americans really do believe in like the best ideal of the melting pot. They don't want to see themselves as explicitly sexist, racist, xenophobic, whatever. And you're kind of stripping them of plausible deniability here with this whole Haitian pet situation. So that's why I think, to me, it's just very clear that this is a fail, that it's already a fail. And I'm not saying that it doesn't mean he can't win, but if he does, it will be in spite of this, because we already see the way the poll numbers have moved against him post-debate when this became the center of conversation.
The counter is simple. The counter is that rapid demographic change doesn't mean that you're racist. It means that you want control over that. You have an uncontrolled system.
Yeah, but if your argument for why we should get rid of these people and like why we should just start like going door to door and in deporting all of them is that they're eating all the pets, and it's based off of a lie, right? Like, you can make a case to reduce the amount of what do you call it? Immigration in the country. You can make that case. It's super easy. All right. It depresses low-end wages, blah, 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 right? Culture, blah, 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 blah. But they're not making those arguments. They're saying that they're eating cats and dogs, and it's ruining their optics. It's ruining their reputations. It's just, why would you ever go that route?
system. I mean,
That's
look.
not what they're saying.
No. But I'm saying look, if you get somebody to vote for Trump in spite of this on the immigration question, it's going to be this. All right, I got two choices. I got a candidate who we had more illegal immigrants enter the country under their reign than a decade before. We have the highest level of the foreign-born population since the 1900s. We have ethnic strife. Do we want to live in a balkanized America of ethnic enclaves in various different cities where half of these people don't speak any English? The vast majority of them are semi-literate. They don't have a high school degree. I mean, by the way, these Haitians, these people are here under TPS, which is supposed to be temporary. They're not even supposed to be here forever.
We don't actually even, some of them, I'm sure that's true for some of them.
They're here under TPS, which is temporary, and just because they haven't left yet doesn't mean that they're not going to. There's an ongoing conflict. There's an ongoing conflict in Haiti. They have gangs running the whole thing.
Some of them, the indication from the mayor and other authorities, they actually have been here for years. They moved into the town from other places because there were job opportunities. So, I mean,
the ones, okay, listen.
So, I mean,
but I'm saying,
not to nitpick,
when you
but just
call
to clarify.
somebody a migrant, that implies forever, permanence. They're here under TPS, which is supposed to be, they're supposed to go back. So when are you going back? And that's part of the problem. In America, we have an immigration system where you can just come here and say, oh, I'm here for my life, and you get to stay here forever. Basically, even if the court tells you to leave, you don't have to leave.
The temporary protected status doesn't apply to all people who come over the border. It's only for specific countries and for specific amounts of time. I mean, I'm an idiot on the internet. I just Googled this last stream. It's not super hard. It's super not hard to find that information. It's super easy to find. So why are we pretending like this is so complicated and so difficult? It's not. Cannibal gangs, if I'm not mistaken. No, there's one instance of cannibalism from a gang. Yes, it was one guy eating like a little bit of another guy because he was trying to send a message to the rival gang. But cannibalism doesn't seem to be a widespread thing. There's one instance of that. And, massive gangs who are running countries tend to do, like people who are part of warlord bands tend to do some unhinged shit, okay? Like there's a reason why we make them look a certain way and act a certain way in movies. It's because they kind of act like that in real life when you're part of a war band. War bands are full of crazy people. I sense a theme. Yeah, it's almost like these people lie constantly.
There's no enforcement. You're in a town of Springfield, Ohio. You're, 60,000 people. Your mayor and your leaders have decided to invite others. You didn't necessarily sign up for that. The federal government puts you there. And you say, listen, this is intolerable to me. I don't want to live this way. Now, look, my parents are immigrants, so this is complicated. But all I need to do is go back and read
But my parents were some of the good
ones.
ones.
Put yourself in the shoes of these waspy elites or others, and it's 1830. You're in this newly industrialized economy. You're previously an agrarian society. You and your parents, your family goes back to Jamestown or fought in the Revolutionary War. And now your whole neighborhood is Irish, and people are wasted all the time, beating the crap out of their wives, working at the factory. I mean, listen, is it legitimate?
You're pulling out the anti-Irish bigotry this
Krystal,
morning.
they passed prohibition because these people were drinking a liter of whiskey
Tell me about
a
the
day.
Italians.
Oh my God, is he going?
I didn't say there's a problem.
Dog, he's going back to the 1800s, early 1900s to like pull out the anti-immigration rhetoric. They're drinking all the whiskey. They're drinking a liter of whiskey. They're drinking a liter of whiskey a day, brother. Do you hear yourself right now? That's the sort of shit that we say jokingly to make fun of the racist people in the early 1900s. We say those things as jokes now because it's so comically stupid. It's so comically insane to say those things.
Integrated.
Yes,
but you're
after we shut down immigration for 50 years.
But this is the point, is every single wave of migration we've had Like there have been, similar fear mongering about these, and they'll never
that's
integrate, and
not
they'll never learn the
fear-mongering.
language, and they'll never be part of society. We're gonna have these balkanized ethnic enclave neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. And every single time, guess what? Generation later, they're just American. Their kids are speaking English. They're eating
Well, it's like
McDonald's.
3
They're doing the whole
generations.
thing. You talk to the people in the town, not the ones that right-wing YouTubers were interviewing that were calling the Haitian immigrants, quote unquote, sand monkeys. Yes, this was proffered as evidence that this was legitimate, that this was a legitimate criticism. But if you talk to
Hold on one second. I gotta help my girlfriend with something. Let me grab something for her. Oh. Not too much longer. I'm kind of running out of steam. Two days ago, or yesterday when I went to the Walmart. How? All right. Let's see here.
ethnic enclave neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera. And every single time, guess what?
It doesn't
Generation
happen.
later, they're just American. Their kids are speaking English. They're eating
Well, it's like
McDonald's.
3
They're doing the whole
generations.
thing. You talk to the people in the town, not the ones that right-wing YouTubers were interviewing that were calling the Haitian immigrants, quote unquote, sand monkeys. Yes, this was
Whoa.
evidence that this was legitimate, that this was a legitimate criticism. But if you talk to a lot of the people in the town, this was a town that was struggling, right? It was like the town that I lived in Ohio, where the jobs had gone away. They had seen a massive population, a depopulation. And that's death for a town. It's death for, the infrastructure. It's death for the tax base, the schools, everything. I don't doubt that there are entirely legitimate concerns about, when a group, whatever group it is, wherever they come from, moves into the town, just like in Texas and Austin, right? And other places where white people have moved in, and it's like, oh shit, the housing prices are going up, et cetera, et cetera. I don't doubt that there have been challenges there, but there have also been really positive things. The pastors are saying, hey, the churches are full again. You've had a huge community rallying around actually the Haitian migrants to the region, white people eating at the Haitian restaurants to show solidarity.
All right, Haitian food is not good, but
Haitian, I
the
disagree.
plantations.
Disagree.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
Plantains?
Yeah, whatever it is. I had it when I was in Miami. And
Disagree.
I'm like, sorry.
Disagree. But in any case,
What was
what
food?
Actually, the Haitian migrants to the region, white people eating at the Haitian restaurants to show solidarity.
All right, Haitian food is not good, but
Haitian, I
the
disagree.
plantations.
Disagree.
Is it? Oh, sorry.
Plantains?
Yeah, whatever it is. I had it when I was in Miami. And I'm like,
Disagree.
this-
Disagree.
I
But
don't know
in any
anything
case,
about it.
you and I see this very differently. That's been very clear in our discussions before. But to go back to just the political point here, I just don't think that the reality for most Americans is that they experience in their daily lives this sense of deep ethnic and racial strife. That's just not the reality. And Americans have complicated views on immigration, I think more complicated than the views in Europe, because we do have this conception and this reality as a nation of immigrants, and that is a core American value. So while it's completely legitimate to have debates about how many immigrants and how many can we process and what are the burdens on the resources, et cetera, this sort of naked racial appeal, I already think the data proves it's a bridge too far for people, and it's not the way that they think about the issue.
A lot of people like to think that. I don't necessarily believe it. I think that if anything, pouring all of these illegals into the country over the last 5 years has probably exacerbated it to a level which, as you know, I don't necessarily want to see. And that's just my last counter, is that at the end of the day, you have
At the end of the
massive
day.
foreign-born population here in the country that has always led to major strife. Now, you can just whitewash 50 years of history, but that's not how people saw it at the time. People, we were fighting World War I.
Just because people had shitty opinions back in the day doesn't mean that we have to continue on their shitty opinions now. Okay? I don't know what to tell you. Just because someone did something stupid a long time ago, or said something stupid, or felt a stupid way a long time ago, does not mean that you're necessarily correct for what you're doing.
The Irish population didn't want to fight because we were supporting the English, and they were like, hey, we fled the English. The Germans were literally pro-Kaiser during World War II.
Shouldn't have really fought World War I.
Okay,
anyway,
it's fine.
go on.
Okay, well, during World
They
War
were
II,
right.
there was a massive Nazi fifth column here in the United States because of the German population. Ask the SS, who had great files on all of our people. There is a problem. Now, does that mean that Japanese people should have been thrown in an internment camp and Germans and all of them should have been racially discriminated against? No. What I'm saying is foreign-born populations at very, very high levels cause real strife inside of a country. People at that time responded to it by shutting down the border for 50-some years and restricting immigration so that all of those people could assimilate, which led to the golden boom of the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s. It was only in 65 that the Immigration Naturalization Act changed after some 50 years of assimilative policy that was instituted. If you want to live in a society that you and I probably want to live in, more socially democratic, in Denmark, for example, if you're Muslim, you don't get to play the Quran. If you're in school, they're like, oh, you're Muslim? That's cool. We don't do that here. In France, same thing. You're not wearing that hijab, and they have major problems with that. If you want to live in a socially democratic country, a lot of the times they have deeply restrictive immigration policy, specifically over resources.
Yeah, and they have failed policies when it comes to assimilating people into their country, which is why we see so many more issues in Europe with immigration than we do in the United States with immigration, because we're able to assimilate all these people into our country fairly easily, whereas people in Europe seem to have a massive issue with that. Oh, wait, Admiral Gibbs, how's it going? What the is a waffle? I have named my Pokemon. So Waffle, named after Waffles, my cat. And I have another Pokemon. I have a Tyranitar named Sushi, named after my cat, Sushi, who hates me.
Questions and over ethnic homogeneity. I'm not saying that everybody has to look the same. I think people should speak the same. So when people come here and the vast majority of them are semi-literate in Spanish and they don't speak English, it's a huge problem. Like, you can't even pass a test to be able to enter under the most basic citizenship guidelines? No, sorry. Well, you have to speak English to be able to come here. I don't think that's racist. You could call it that if you wanted, and that's part of the issue, is that everything that gets described as racist, or even talking about ethnic conflict, or everyone, I don't think it's racist to say that there were a lot of people here who were huge drunks. A lot of them were immigrants in the
Jesus
1910s.
Christ.
We passed prohibition because of them, because America was...
I've been looking at these Irishmen, and dare I say, they're a bunch of drunkards, stealing all of our good American jobs. Brother, you're cartoonishly racist if you're repeating these talking points. And I don't even think that he believes it. I think it's just something that he's saying.
So fed up, and including women who were all getting the crap beaten out of them. You can whitewash that if you want. Go listen to the people at the time who passed those laws. Like, you have to think and consider about what is legitimate and not. And so I don't think it's necessarily racist. Now, some people are racist.
Sagar,
it's true.
Yeah. Again, the points about what should the level of immigration be, over what period of time, I think it should be a lot more. You think it should be zero, okay? By the way,
I think we should shut
the public does not support your position, but again,
well,
I think
let 10 million people in more, and you'll see.
Hold on. I think those points are a fine debate for a country to have. I do not think it is a fine debate to invite a campaign of terror against a small town based on, yes, racist, neo-Nazi fueled, by the way. These were the people that originally were spreading the rumors about Haitians eating pets. That is racist, okay? And that's my point. That's my point, is that when Trump, if Trump was making a case and Republicans were making a case, as they were previously, about like too many and chaos at the border and crime, which again, undocumented immigrants commit less crime than the native-born population, and actually less crime than documented immigrants, put that aside.
Okay.
But again, when you're in
true.
that realm, you're talking about housing,
data doesn't lie.
the issues in this, okay. But when you make a naked racist appeal that is undeniable, right? It's not even plausible on its face, and it's just a lie, you are going to lose people, and you're going to lose ground on the issue. And again, I don't even think this is my opinion. This is what the polls and the data show at this point. But, to go back to the core of the debate here, like, this town is kind of a model example, right? I mean, this is an extreme situation. There's some dispute, by the way, about the 20,000 figure, but we'll put that aside. There was a significant influx of migrants to the town. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt that there have been, I think the issues with, a lot of the Haitian immigrants there hadn't previously driven, and there's like, traffic accidents. There has been some increase in housing prices, although that has also been wildly overstated. There's been an increase in burden on the public school, in particular needing like second language learning. Like, those are real concerns. But there also has been a huge increase in the vitality and prosperity of the area, a huge increase in terms of the average wage. Again, I've lived in one of these towns that's dying and the population is getting sucked down. And it's a huge boon to have new population coming in, which is something conservatives recognize when it's Florida that's receiving the population and it's white people, right? Or Texas receiving the population and it's white people. But suddenly when it's Haitians, some of whom, again, have been here for years.
You know what? That's a talking point I've never heard before, but actually a little bit of a fair point. We've had like massive, I don't know if you even pronounce it differently, but there's immigration, IMM, and there's immigration, EME. And immigration is moving from one place to another within the same country, right? Or within the same like locality or, within the same borders. So you're moving from California to Texas. Nobody like bats an eye, but that would still have the same like economic shocks as illegal immigration. It would have the exact same shocks. So why do we not care about that? I would have to think about that. I've never thought about like that, but that's an interesting point.
Suddenly it's, a massive crisis and a massive problem. And there's no recognition of any of the many benefits that do exist on the other side.
It's not because they're white. It's because they're illegally here.
They're not though. The Haitians are not illegally
here. They're given TPS, which is a bullshit program.
But that's not. But that is different to say I object to the program.
And say,
to say
all of a sudden
it's a program I object to is totally different from saying that they're illegally here. They are not illegally here.
They are here under false pretenses.
And
number one.
It's not false
False
pretenses.
pretenses.
Because they're fleeing from a temporary situation. And
It is a temporary situation. What is this guy actually? There's no way he's this stupid. Wait, hold on. I was paying attention to my game for a second there. Let me hear him again.
Legally here.
They're not locked down. And it's a huge boon to have new population coming in, which is something conservatives recognize when it's Florida that's receiving the population and it's white people, right? Or Texas receiving the population and it's white people. But suddenly when it's, Haitians, some of whom, again, have been here for years, suddenly it's, a massive crisis and a massive problem. And there's no recognition of any of the many benefits that do exist on the other side.
It's not because they're white. It's because they're illegally here.
They're not. The Haitians are not illegally
here.
They're
given TPS, which is bullshit
but
program.
That's not. But that is different.
That is the idea that we're going to call. I don't think anybody would disagree. Every single person that I've ever talked to about immigration doesn't disagree that we should have some ability for us to say, hey, you know what? We should help these people out. It's a little bit, it's like a moral responsibility of the United States to help these people. Like people are like very, one second. I lost my train of thought. This is what happens when you don't have Vyvanse. Go back again.
And there's no recognition of any of the many benefits that do exist on the other side.
It's not because they're white. It's because they're illegally here.
They're not though. The Haitians are not illegally
here.
They're
given TPS, which is a bullshit program.
That's not. But that is different.
We have like a moral responsibility, and people think it's a good thing when we're like the most powerful, most successful country on the face of the planet to ever exist in all of human history. For us to want to, for us to want to help other people and have the ability to, that's a really good thing. And for them to come here with work visas and work and increase our economy in doing so, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that we're doing. This is Route 34, right?
to say I object to the
wave a wand
program
and say it
hold
should be
on.
illegal,
To
then
say
all of a sudden
it's
we're
a
saying
program I
cool.
object to is totally different from saying that they're illegally here. They are not illegally here.
They are here
They're
under
here
false
legally
pretenses,
and
number one.
it's not
False
false pretenses.
pretenses.
Because they're fleeing from a temporary situation and they never want to go back.
A temporary situation that we are very much implicated,
Well,
by the
again,
way,
by
in
that
creating over
standard, then
200 years.
everybody in the world gets to come.
But
here,
Tucker,
which is
they're not there
ridiculous.
illegally. They're there legally. They're in a lot of ways like the model minority group. They've got jobs. They're working hard. They're going to church. They're building community institutions. They followed the process that was set out for them by this government. They're here legally. And so, no, you look at it and, maybe you can nitpick about, okay, but they, some of them don't speak English or whatever. But it seems to me the primary difference,
Springfield, Ohio.
the primary difference in not recognizing any of the upsides of this population is that they're not white.
Yeah, you're totally right, but it's not about being white. It's about the fact that the factory owners love cheap labor. I was just talking to somebody who was down there as a reporter. He's telling
They're
me
making good wages.
yes, they're making good wages, which is which is less than they were paying the native-born citizens.
But that's
The
why we
rich
should-
factory
but it-
guys like, oh, it's great. I don't have to deal with these white drug
Sagar,
addicts.
The white people, the native-born population, weren't taking those jobs. Is the thing. They weren't taking those jobs. They weren't. They refused to take those jobs. They saw themselves as above it. They were having a tough time filling those jobs, even though they pay the native citizens more. They still weren't taking the jobs. Then the Haitians come in. They start taking the jobs that nobody would take. More jobs open up to accommodate more people in those in that area. It's Econ 101, dude.
let me take you out of it because you support things like unions. But, J.D. Vance has a 0% scoring record with the AFL-CIO.
Okay.
Trump is a union buster. No, but hold on.
He showed
but
up
hold
to
on,
the
hold on, hold on.
UAW.
But hold on a second. Republicans only care about things like wages and housing when they can use it as a way to scapegoat migrants. If you care about wages, which I do, then there are a lot better ways to increase the wages of the native-born population than scapegoating migrants and lying and say they're eating pets. If you care about lowering the price of housing, making it more affordable, accessible, there are a lot better ways than scapegoating immigrants and saying they're eating pets. So I think their concern on this issue is not genuine. Again, this is not about you. This is about them. Their concern on this issue is not genuine. And the reason I know that is because none of their other policy prescriptions or stated concerns have to do with those issues.
Flip not apply to you then? Or
what do you mean?
Well, how does it flip saying, well, if you support mass migration, but just because you vote for the PRO Act, how can you possibly be pro-labor? That's just not true.
Of course it is.
No, but it's not because the net effect is a massive
The
flood
primary problem for workers in this country is not immigrants. It's not immigrants.
I mean,
in fact,
you should
immigrants,
ask them, but
the influx in population has increased our GDP. Now, I know.
Yeah, it would
that's
distribute it to
hold on.
whom? Yeah.
Well, that's the point.
Yes.
And that's why I support the policies that I support, to make sure that when the GDP increases, that those fruits, that increased productivity, is distributed more generously among all working class populations. So there are much better
Why is she suddenly
solutions to
based?
housing and wages than scapegoating immigrants and lying and inciting like a racist hate campaign against this town based on a third-hand Facebook account of someone eating a pet.
Look, in the pet thing, it's not fair. Nobody's defending.
I know you're not defending
here,
that.
but I'm saying that whenever it comes to the legitimate concerns about, like, oh, the factory owner and the mayor likes it. Listen, since when have we ever trusted factory owner, rich people in towns?
This was a Democrat. Hold on, this was a democratically elected mayor.
Yes, sure.
They have a chance to vote him out of office, and they don't,
right,
because the town has been, in certain key ways, not every way, but in certain ways, has been improved by the fact that you've had more jobs, more
It has been revitalized.
These immigrants who are there legally, are contributing to the community, are paying their taxes, by all accounts, are, by and large, minding their business and doing their thing and being good neighbors. And that piece that there's, yes, I'm not going to deny that there's like, that there's friction and there's growing pains and all of those things are real. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not saying that you're like racist if you think that. That's, I'm sure, a reality. But you also can't ignore that there have been benefits to having this population there. Just as there have been benefits of like, the white people that moved to Austin or that moved to Florida or wherever,
again,
that created additional vitality for those areas too.
Well, the fundamental difference is those are legal U.S. citizens and these people are not. Now, maybe these Haitians are.
These people, they are legal.
Okay.
They are legal. It's literally the temporary protected status. It's literally. It's legal. It's legal.
You know what? When
They
we
are
legally are
documented.
required to send them back, I hope that
They're not undocumented.
we also do. But second to this is the simple question around managed change, managed demographics. They came here on an unregulated system where anybody in the world who shows up at the southern border and says, I fear for my life, gets to stay here for years on end and gets a work permit because the Biden administration releases them into the country. Trump did it too, so he's not off. So did George W. Bush and the rest. I think that's wrong, especially whenever people who aren't so conveniently at the southern border have to apply and pay a lot of fees, to take a freaking English test, and some other guy from Guatemala gets to come here. He doesn't have to take anything. He gets to work illegally on the back end. But this is the big question. Now, as I said,
work illegally, if they're coming in and they're going and getting the things that we're talking about, then they're necessarily legally working. Now, if they're illegally here, yeah, I don't care that much. Like, you can get rid of them, sure. But like, is that the only option that we have? Is there not something better that we can do? Like fixing the situation where it is with the asylum claim system? Why don't you guys ever want to fix that? You guys say that you want to fix that, but then you never do. You talk about building a wall instead. When we know what is attracting people. We know what is attracting people. And you guys never bring it up as something that we need to do. There we go. Thunderbolt. Thunder. Get fucked.
if Trump wins, I think it will be because of this. I think enough people will look past that. You may call it racist, but they'll say, look, enough.
Wait. Do you not think it's racist?
What,
the
Haitian
pets thing?
I mean, like, listen,
It is.
Okay,
It
when we
is.
say
It
racist, like,
is.
what does that mean? Like, look,
Sagar.
well, I mean, this is the issue. This is uncomfortable territory, but
It's
I mean,
not uncomfortable. It's very clear.
Well,
It's very clear. You're talking about an entire demographic of people, who you're saying are dirty, nasty barbarians who eat people's cats and dogs. You're doing the bad thing. Oh my God, are you kidding me, bro?
as Marianne Williamson said, what, are we going to ignore that there are like weird practices sometimes in the Haitian community? Like, I'm not saying,
You know,
but again,
majority
that's
of
not
Haitians
everybody.
share the religion of J.D. Vance and are Catholic.
Which are, yeah, okay, but there's Santeria, which is a well-documented thing and has had a long time influence
Sagar,
in Caribbean
to
communities.
take a third-hand lie and smear an entire community
Yeah, I
with
think
it.
that was wrong.
That is the definition of racism.
I mean, listen, I'm
Tell
just
me your
reluctant-
definition of racism and how it does not apply to this
The
situation.
definition of racism is explicitly being biased against someone purely because of their race. And I don't necessarily think that that's where we're at here. Now, do I think that we are in a situation? I mean, look,
They made up false lies and then attributed it to the entire Haitian community by your own definition. Maybe I'm mishearing him. Maybe he said something.
I think being biased against someone.
How it does not apply to this
The
situation.
definition of racism is explicitly being biased against someone purely because of their race. And
Yeah. And you're saying that because they're Haitian, they're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs. What the How's it going, neighbor guy? And free cakes.
I don't necessarily think that that's where we're at here. Now, do I think that we are in a situation? I mean, look, is it biased? Is it I'm
It's
trying to think
racist.
of the ways. And look,
I'm trying to think of all the words that I could possibly use. Is it racially biased? It could be, but is it racist? No. Like, brother, what is racial bias and racism? The Venn diagram of those two terms are a circle. What the is wrong with you? Just say it's racist. It's so easy. You already said it's bad optics. Now you're doing the bad optics by saying, I don't know if it's actually racist to just say that all people who come from Haiti are eating our cats and dogs. Bruh. Is it racist to say Americans eat hot dogs and apple pie? American isn't a race. It's too broad of a, there's too many demographics in America that fall under the demographic of American to say that that's something that you could be biased like that towards. Whereas Haiti, you're saying that all Haitians, who all seem to be in one like racial demographic, right? Who all have a shared culture. And I just explained the difference, Bog and stuff. Like there's a difference. And also like saying American is a race, like American is a nationality, and that's the way that it should stay. Like disagree? You think that American is a race, Bong and stuff. And listen, don't get me wrong. If there's people that come over here, they're doing bad things, that's totally fine. We can talk about those things. But to apply an entire demographic to this statement that they're doing barbaric shit it's just racist, dude. It's just racist.
people could say, oh, he's twisting himself into knots. It's just because my barrier for like what I call racist is high, because I think it's a very misused word and frankly kind of stupid.
But sometimes you got to call a spade a spade.
I mean, I think if they said because they're black, I have a problem with them, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, that's racist. But, you know, to say like, oh, there's an issue here in the Haitian community specifically.
When you take an issue.
But it's not real. And then you all are all saying that they're eating the cats and dogs, which is why it makes it racist. If there was an actual issue and that was actually happening, and there was actually evidence of it happening, then yeah, brother, go for it. Call them out. I don't give a I like calling out specific examples of bad behavior. I like it when people can actually show what they're talking about as being real. 1 second, let me heal all these boys before we go into fight Lance. I think that should be good. Ooh, boy. Let me just save super quick. Wait, why don't I just do, what is it, Shift F1? Yeah. The whole Haiti cat thing is done because it was mentioned in headlines a few days before the debate, and Trump was referring to that. But why? Why not refer to all the true stories of citizens being killed, stabbed, etc. by immigrants? Well, that's because, number one, there's just not enough stories of that actually happening, of the true stories of citizens being killed by immigrants. Like, statistically speaking, immigrants, whether illegal or legal, are less likely to commit crimes than someone who is a native-born citizen. That's not to say that it's a good thing or that we should tolerate that or anything like that, but that's just a fact that we have to contend with, and then we can have that conversation after we get through the true facts of it, right? I'm writing a letter to Notre Dame to get them to change their mascot. Not all of us from Irish descent get drunk and fight. True, based. We should be. Listen, nobody cares about Notre Dame anymore. All right, that one movie, the one football movie happened, Rudy, and now they got nothing. All right.
Issue and you smear an entire community with it, and which was not even true. It's just a lie.
Yes, it's not true.
I mean, that's like textbook racism. And yeah, the term gets thrown around as you, but sometimes it applies, and it applies pretty clearly here. So, you know, to wrap up, and perhaps since we are going to talk to Zed about this as well, and we got to get on to the rest of the show, and we're going to have more conversations about immigration, et cetera, which I know you all appreciate, and I enjoy exchanging with you on this as well. But to wrap it up, the reason that I think this is a clear political fail, the whole pet thing is a clear political fail for Trump, is I just don't think that Americans are this racist. I just don't. I think that they see this as disgusting. I think we have the polling that shows they know that it's not true. They know that it's a lie. People don't like being lied to either. And
1 second. I read a variety of news sources, and it certainly has been true more than a few times. Well, I mean, like, law of large numbers, yeah, you're going to find some, but like, it's about finding something that's happening, and it's a big enough issue that we need to address it in a way that we're not already addressing it, right? In terms of like the crime or any kind of like violent crime from illegal immigrants, I mean, we have police, and we're taking care of those things in the way that we know how to, and it's not a big enough issue to where we need to like change course on immigrant crime, because it's just not happening at a high enough level for us to change course. We're taking care of that, right? Aren't all illegal immigrants criminals by definition? We need to look back into that, because we had a debate a couple of weeks ago where crossing the border illegally is a civil offense, but sometimes it's a criminal offense. It depends, right? But no, not necessarily. And also, when we're talking about criminals, we're usually not talking about, I mean, jaywalking is technically illegal, right? It's a civil offense, right? That would land you a fine if anybody gave a but just because someone has broken a law, like just because someone is like sped, doesn't mean that we should, refer to them as like a criminal, right? When you use the word criminal, people think violent criminal, someone stole, someone killed, someone blah, 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 blah. So are all illegals immigrants criminals by definition? No, for the reason that I laid out, but also for the second reason, like when you use that language, you're like implying that they've done something heinous. But like crossing the border is not that big of a deal. I'm not a like totally open borders person. I don't think that anybody in the same area that I'm in terms of like politics, that being like centrist lib, I don't think that there's any like elected officials that are like, oh, we should just open our borders and like there shouldn't be any vetting for anyone coming over whatsoever. It's about like finding what the actual root issue is, which in my opinion, and I think in a lot of immigration experts' opinions, is, hey, we have this major problem with our asylum application process. It is way too easy to apply for asylum, and then we can't really do anything about it. We have to get them to go through the asylum process, right? So like we could change the way people apply for asylum, and we could change the way that we process asylum claims, which is what was in that bill that Donald Trump shot down in, what was it, March or April or something like that? Like that was on the table for the first time ever. Oh my God, it was actually something that would have addressed the actual policy that attracts people to try and come over here and apply for asylum. And they shut it down. Like we have a solution, man. We have a solution. But like it's so aggravating, because like instead of having, we can't have real conversations anymore, right? We're just incapable of it, because when we see an actual issue and we identify the actual issue, we should have that conversation. But instead, we're having conversations about walls, and we're talking about deporting 1 billion people, and we're talking about, all these things that are, what's the word I'm looking for? Things that are reacting to the issue instead of addressing the issue head on. Like, I'm not even going so far as to like, and not that I disagree with it, but like our main focus shouldn't be like some lefties say, like, well, we should just fix those other countries that we've up, blah, 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 and then people will feel less inclined to come over here. Like, should we do that? Yeah, that would probably alleviate a lot of the immigration pressures that they have leaving their country. I mean, like her or not, Kamala Harris was successful at that with her border. She wasn't the border czar, but everyone calls her the border czar for the job that she had, which was talking to the Golden Triangle or something like that, Northern Triangle, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. Oh, that's 3, triangle. Like she was able to reduce the amount of immigration coming from those places by up to 50% from one of the countries, 30% from another one, and I think like 40 something from the third. I don't remember which is which. But like we can do that. We can do multiple things, right? We have the most money in the entire world. We can simultaneously try and reduce the pressures for people to come over here from their countries by helping them invest in their countries and giving them jobs so they don't feel the need to come over here and get jobs. And then we can also fix the way that we have people apply for asylum in our country, which is once you're on American soil and you turn yourself in and say, I'm claiming asylum, like we can have ways to actually deal with that and change the way that we go about our immigration policy when it comes to asylum seekers. But Republicans don't want to do that. And it's mind-boggling because that's what the issue is. Like, we can see the massive spike in immigration happened, I think, starting with Obama, because they changed the way that we did asylum applications. And once they figured that out, once people from south of the border and all these other countries figured that out, they're like, oh, yo, let's go fucking apply for asylum in America. This place sucks. And that's really good. And then they came over here and now here we are. But nobody wants to reverse that immigration policy. And it's crazy. Sorry, I haven't been reading chat. But I'll read chat now and then we'll finish the video and then, yeah. Criminal sounds like a career. Having committed a crime doesn't sound so bad. Yeah, exactly. What's your solution to the millions of people in the country? Well, I kind of laid everything out but if you... Did I answer that question, or do you want me to like go more in detail? Asylum from Nicaragua is hilarious considering the amount of countries that they went through to get here. Well, I think that it was the Biden administration that changed one of our policies on the asylum process. It had to be done through executive order. But it was like you have to apply for asylum at the next country, right? And if you're turned away, then you can go to the next one. And I think that was implemented this year or late last year or some shit like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But like there are solutions and there are things that we can talk about, and you know, it's just that the Republicans right now, they are not wanting to have that conversation. Instead, they're so mad about the fact that there is so much immigration that they're just like, oh well, we should just like go the punishment route and go Judge Dredd and start kicking in doors. It's like, well, that's not going to help with more people coming over here. If you want to help with more people coming over here, guess what? You're gonna have to change the asylum seeking law. That's how you're gonna have to do it. Check the top comment of the video and then read a bit of this. Sound familiar with what Sagar said? Well, let me finish the video and then we'll.
So, you know, whatever valid concerns there are about immigration, sure, fine. You're actually undercutting your position on that by front loading with just like this explicitly racist neo-Nazi backed lie.
Without taking your words, I will say I think it's a mistake to generally wager our whole reputation on this whole Haitian thing. I'd much rather have a lot of the talk that I just gave around demographics and management and all of that. But at the same time, listen, I mean, they're the ones who got themselves elected. Maybe they know something that I don't. I'm not Pollyanna to believe that everybody thinks about these things the way that I do, or the so-called better angels. I think a lot of that is fake, to be honest. And so we'll find out on the ballot box something that I don't. I'm not Pollyanna to believe that everybody thinks about these things the way that I do, or the so-called better angels. I think a lot of that is fake, to be honest. And so we'll find out on the ballot box. And if they win,
I'm sorry, I'm stupid.
I think it's a mistake to generally wager our whole reputation on this whole Haitian thing. I'd much rather have a lot of the talk that I just gave around demographics and management and all of that. But at the same time, listen, I mean, they're the ones who.
Well, the problem is like the U.S. is exceptionally good, like better than literally any other country in the history of humankind in so many ways, because I love my goddamn country. But one of the things that we do exceptionally well is integrate people into our country and into our culture very, very easily. We have a very easy time with that, where other European countries or European or white dominant or whatever however you want to go about it, like they're just not good at it in the way that we are. Sorry, it's just the truth.
two got themselves elected. Maybe they know something that I don't. I'm not Pollyanna to believe that everybody thinks about these things the way that
What are the words that he's saying? I do not understand the words that he's saying. 1 second. Go back. Let me pull up the closed captions. What the are you saying?
know something that I don't. I'm not Pollyannish to believe that everybody thinks about
What does that mean? Pollyannish?
these things the way that I do, or the the so-called better angels. I think a lot of that is fake, to be
I don't know
honest.
what that
and
is.
so we'll find out on the ballot box. And if they win, I actually do think a lot of it is basically all of it will come back to immigration. And if that's true, then I think liberals should ask themselves a lot of questions. Now, if they lose too, we should also talk a lot about the way that when you can be on a winning side of an issue and how you screw that up. And there's probably a lot of evidence here if they lose the election. And I would hope that they take that away if they do lose. But
They won't.
knowing them, that's certainly not what's
Not on
going
the
to happen.
table.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a
Okay.
comment below. It really helps get the
Interesting.
show to more people.
Cool. Really quick, if you guys just found my channel or if this is your first time here, please consider following and consider donating. Here is 2 quick links for you guys. I'll put it into both chats here. Here we go. Donate right there, or subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitch, you can use the follow or the subscribe thing on Twitch, follow or subscribe on YouTube. All these things are very helpful. Here is the donate link for you guys over on YouTube. I am, as of today, finally employed. Finally, Jesus Christ. But it still will be 2 weeks before I get any money from a paycheck from my now gainful employment. So if you guys want to help me, that's a great way to help me. All right, let's see here.